이번 영상은 제가 즐겨 듣는 팟캐스트 중에 하나인 Life Kit이라는 팟캐스트가 있어요. 근데 거기서 6 Tips to Help You Overcome Your Fear of Flying. 그래서 비행기 타면 이제 공포 이런 것들이 있잖아요. 그래서 그런 것들을 극복해내가는 그런 팁들에 대해서 이제 다룬 아티클을 저희 원어민 선생님, 리아 원어민 선생님과 같이 얘기를 한번 해봤는데. 아무튼 이 영상을 일단 봐주시고 이제 영상 끝에 제 영어에 대한 문제점을 잠깐 한번 얘기를 한번 해볼게요. 일단은 같이 영상 한번 볼게요.
So I'm curious because I assume you know that like a lot of people are afraid to fly. And in fact, my daughter is really nervous. One of my daughters is really nervous to fly. How do you feel about flying?
When it comes to, the idea of being in a airplane actually kind of scares me a little bit, but I try not to think about it. Yeah, but what about you? Have you?
You know, I am not afraid to fly at all.
Oh,
And
okay.
I mean, I don't think I ever was. And, you know, being a flight attendant, I mean, you really couldn't be afraid to fly because that certainly was not very helpful to,
Right.
you know, get up and go to work every day and be afraid of what you were going to do. You know, one of the tips on this podcast was, you know, to face your fear and, you know, repeatedly do it in small doses and then kind of build up.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to suggest that everybody get a job as a flight attendant so they could face their fear of flying. But I thought that was one of the things I kind of marked as important to me was that, you know, if the only way you're going to overcome something you're afraid of is to do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I have a question. So one of the tips actually they suggest is that it says talk yourself down from dread.
Right.
So I never heard of the word dread. What does that mean?
I think dread, I would call that like extreme fear.
Oh, extreme fear. Okay.
Like you are just so worried you can't focus on anything else and it takes over how you're feeling and maybe what you're doing. Right? Can you think of does that help for an explanation? Can you think of any other way you might use it? Like, is there anything that you know, like maybe a person dreads cleaning house, doing the laundry.
Oh, okay.
So it's just things you don't enjoy doing, I would say. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be anything big like flying. It could be even just, you know, I dread staying up late at night to, you know, watch a dumb movie, maybe.
Something like that. I mean, can I say something like, I dread when I actually have to talk in front of everybody in English?
Yep, that would
Okay.
be a great way to use that if that's something that you kind of have a fear of,
Gotcha.
right?
And then what about like a talk yourself down?
Well, that means like so like if you have a lot of anxiety going on, so maybe a lot of dread, a lot of fear of flying, so you're kind of like your feelings are up here kind of high, your anxiety is high, and so to talk yourself down means to try to maybe do some self-talk or relaxation exercises, breathing things that you kind of bring yourself down to where your anxiety is like maybe not normal if this is something you're incredibly afraid of, but you know, you're bringing yourself down to something that's more manageable.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And because I think she said, you know, another thing you could do is distract yourself if you're afraid. So that might be a way of kind of bringing yourself down would be to focus on something different.
Right.
And you know, what she also said in the podcast, that's hard to do because you should recognize that this is an uncomfortable situation. And what was the phrase she used at the end that I thought was really excellent? That you have to be comfortably uncomfortable.
Oh, wow. This sounds kind of interesting.
if you're afraid of flying, but you need to fly to go somewhere or do something, then you acknowledge or recognize that you're going to be uncomfortable, but try to make it a level that it's uncomfortable, but yet kind of comfortable. Did you enjoy this podcast?
I did actually, but it's been a long time since I listened to it. But I read an article about it as well. So yeah, I really liked that podcast.
Yeah, I did too, because even though I'm not afraid to fly, there are other things I'm afraid of. And one of the silly things that I am afraid of is putting my face in water. So like going snorkeling is a big problem for me.
Oh,
But I feel like I could do all these things for some fear other than flying.
I mean, speaking of snorkeling, I have like a story about snorkeling. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, my wife and I, like before we got married, we went to Philippines, and then we went snorkeling with a bunch of people together. And then finally, I mean, my turn came, and then to be honest, I'm a water phobia. I have water phobia. Is that the right way to say it?
That is the right way. Yeah. That just means a fear of water.
I have water phobia, and then I don't know how to swim, even though I took some swimming classes when I was little, but apparently it didn't help. But at the time, my wife and I, we were dating, and then I tried to, be
impress her.
Yeah, impress her or whatever. And then, I think I was the only one who was wearing a life vest and stuff. And then finally we went into the water, and then all of a sudden, of course, even though I was wearing a life vest, I was drowning. And then my wife, was trying to set me out of the water. But, looking back, it was really great experience because I could see, a whale shark, and,
Wow.
it was wonderful experience. Yeah.
Any other questions about the podcast for me that would help you better understand it?
Yes. There are probably 3 things that I want to ask.
Okay, sure. Go.
So one of them is there it says air travel is making a comeback. So I never use making a comeback. Can I say air travel is coming back? Does it have the same meaning, or?
It has the exact same meaning.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because to make a comeback means that something is coming back, it's getting better. Especially in this example of air travel, in the start of the pandemic, they're probably, air travel is here, and then the pandemic and air travel, not a lot of people are traveling, and now it's making a comeback. So it's kind of like it's rebounding, it's recovering.
Gotcha.
But you could totally say air travel is coming back.
Okay. But can I say, for example, Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving is coming back. Thanksgiving is making a comeback.
Nope.
No.
Because Thanksgiving is always here anyway.
Gotcha.
So I think you could say, Thanksgiving is, I would say, coming again.
Coming again. Okay.
In November. But I feel like the example of a comeback is something that has maybe suffered a little bit and is now rebounding or coming back to its previous level.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Okay. There's another expression. It says, even if you are itching to get your island vacation. So what is that? Itching to do something.
That's me. I'm scratching, right? Because I got an itch. That was supposed to be funny. So you're supposed to laugh at that.
I was looking at something else. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Well, it was really good. Here's what. So itching to it just means that it's something you want to do really bad, want to do very much, and you want to do it as soon as possible.
Oh,
okay. So if you're itching to get to your island vacation, it means that, wow, you really want to go on this vacation and you'd really like to go as soon as possible. It has nothing to do with, getting bit by a mosquito and having to scratch and itch.
So that means basically you're wanting to do something Okay, you are dying to do something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So can you think of anything? Can you think of an example of something you are itching to do?
I mean, there's an ice cream place that a lot of people talk about, so I'm itching to try some of their flavors.
There you go. That's perfect use of it.
And then the last one, it says, why do our brains hang on to the very extraordinary instances when something goes wrong? So hang on to something.
Yeah. And hang on to something. I mean, you think it means like, I'm going to hang on to my water bottle.
Mhm.
But in this example, it means that you're just mentally holding on to something, and I think this was used that in the example that, there are so many safe flights that happen every day, every year, but your mind kind of focuses or hangs on to
Mhm.
those accidents, airplane accidents that you hear about. So you kind of
Gotcha.
continually believe in something and maybe when it's not even necessarily true.
Okay. The other day, I was talking to my cell phone carriers, like agent, and then also basically what happened was, I received some kind of equipment that I didn't even like know. I specifically said I didn't want it, but they sent it to me. So I was explaining why I got this, I don't want it, and then is there any way that I can return it? Blah blah blah. And then, she said, "Oh, why don't you hang on to it, until we have somebody else to handle the situation?" So I was like, "Huh, hang on to something." So I heard
Yeah.
that, yeah, for
Because I think you can hang on to something two
Yes.
ways. Like in the example from the podcast, it's something you're hanging on to in
mentally.
your mind.
Mhm.
But then there's the example, like you use something you're physically in possession of and hanging on to.
Gotcha. Alrighty. I think that's all I have. Thank you so much for, talking about this article with me, and then
Oh,
I really appreciate it. You have a good day.
okay. You too. Thanks for chatting today.
일단 제가 제 영어를 이렇게 들었을 때 가장 문제점이라고 생각하는 것 중에 하나가 필러라고 하죠. 그러니까 사람들이 이제 미국 사람들이 특히 얘기를 많이 할 때 중간중간에 you know, like, 이런 것들을 많이 쓰는 사람들이 있어요. 근데 제가 그런 걸 또 하고 있더라고요. 그래서 개인적으로는 그런 것들을 안 하려고 노력을 하고 있는데 영상을 보니까 굉장히 많이 하고 있어서 저도 진짜 깜짝 놀랐습니다. 그리고 두 번째로 제 스피킹 할 때의 문제점이 뭐냐면 말끝을 굉장히 흐리더라고요. 중간중간에 말을 끝까지 명확하게 전달을 하고 끊어야 되는데 그렇지 않고 자신이 중간중간에 없다 보니까 말끝을 많이 흐리기도 하고, 그래서 이제 잘 못 알아듣는 경우가 많았었던 것 같아요. 제가 이제 돌이켜 보니까. 그래서 앞으로 이 두 가지 문제점을 개선해 나가는 모습도 같이 한번 공유를 하도록 하겠습니다. 시간이 나는 대로. 아무튼 오늘 영상은 여기까지 하고 다음 영상에서 뵙도록 하겠습니다. 바이.